Hey, what's up, ecosystem? Have you ever wanted so bad to talk to a high profile transportation lawyer that works in Washington, D.C.? Well, that's what we have tonight. We've got Henry E. Seaton, Esquire, live on Auto Transport Intel. So bring your questions and buckle in. It's Tuesday nights live on Auto Transport Intel. I'm Jay, your host. Welcome back to the show. Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to Auto Transport Intel. I really appreciate you guys tuning back into this show. Means a lot. So what do we got cooking tonight? Oh, we got transportation legal issues, as if there weren't enough. But you know what? Here's the good news, is that tonight we're going to present an expert. I mean, he is a lawyer. He is a high-profile transportation attorney that works in D.C. It doesn't get any better than Henry E. Seaton. He's also known as Hank Seaton of Seaton and Husk. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm so excited to have him here. But listen, before I get too excited, let me tell you what's going to happen tonight. You know that I run the Welcome Car Hauler. If you're in the live chat, you know the deal. So I do that. We're welcome, and I want you to feel welcome, and I want you to feel like you can participate in this show. This is our show. This is Auto Transport Intel, the car hauling business channel. Please say hello. Please share information. Ask a question. It's a safe place. And, hopefully that you can connect with somebody that's got the answer you're looking for. That's what happens in the live chat. Then at about 10 minutes into the show, I'm going to go into industry news. That's the memes and the actual news and all kinds of stuff happening. And we're gonna lead in as we move into industry news and what's happening on social media. Then we're gonna lead into the information superhighway. Now this is where I start to lay down some of the groundwork of the topics of what we're going to get into in the interview. Because in the interview, we are going to talk to transportation lawyer, attorney, Hank Seaton. He is, I'm so lucky to have him on the show. This is his book, okay? Hank wrote The Rules of the Road, and he knows his stuff. I mean, I am so honored to have him with us here tonight. I didn't even know if it would be possible, and I know he's got a busy schedule, but he really is going to be here. So that's at a half hour into the show, and then he's going to stick around. We're going to go another full hour with Richard Bryn. He's the VP of Insurance at PFA Transportation Insurance and Surety Services. Man, when it comes to insurance, Richard knows his stuff. If you're busy on LinkedIn, you know Richard's name. He really puts it out there, and I mean, for as the webinars, the information, and he's really helpful guy. So he's going to be with us. Really happy to have him back on the show. And of course, rounding out the four of us in the live panel is Ty, CTS Business Coaching. He's my partner, and I'm so happy to have. This is going to be a great show. So if you're here, yeah, I mean it, really do. Buckle in. If you're driving, go ahead and make sure you're buckled and that ELDs are rolling. Yep, I got my ELD here. And by the way, I'm happy to say, there's a reason why I have the ELD Kool-Aid. The hours of everybody who thought the ELD's perfect and I love that gadget. Well, they are doing the update on the hours of service. So here's to the update, proposed rulemaking, whatever, formal approved rulemaking, hours of service changes. Here's to you, hours of service. I'm going to be doing a cheers to hours of service throughout the evening because I'm so excited. I was right. No, I don't have to be right. Oh man, I'm telling you. Okay, so here's the deal. We're going to do this. We're going to hear a quick word from Murphy Auto Dispatch Services. We're going to be right back in the live chat. Please stick around.
Are you completely stressed out from all the calls and contacts and verification of codes and nobody answers the phone? Call Murphy Auto Dispatch Services today. Murphy Auto Dispatch Services has over 15 years of experience in the transport industry. We are your office while you are on the road. We book, we verify, and we fill out your loads for you. We have an excellent accounting staff and an even better dispatch team. Give us a call today at 417-273-0021. Or if you want to email me, it's murphyautotransport31@yahoo.com. Give us a call today.
That is no joke. Listen, if you are looking for dispatch services, you want to talk to Murphy Auto Dispatch Services. If you are looking for the right car hauling trailer, you want to talk to Sun Country Trailers. If you are trying to manage the automation of a fleet, you need to talk to Gopher Auto Carrier Software. And if you are an owner, operator, or carrier looking to fill in those empty spots, looking for a better load board, you want to talk to ACV Auctions. Go to acvauctions.com/ATI. All right, now listen. I want to welcome you to the live chat. I really do appreciate you tuning in. Ty is the first one in tonight. He says, is this where you find the attorneys? This is where you find one attorney, the only attorney you need. Wait until you hear some of the stories Hank has. Man, I'm telling you, when we were at the Auto Haulers Association of America conference in May, and I was listening to Hank talk, and I thought, man, I have got to get him on the show. Is there any way possible? And so I talked to him in the hallway, and you know what he did? He gives me this book. He gives it to me, and he even signs. Look at that. There it is. I got a signed copy of Rules of the Road by Hank Seaton. Listen, this is available on his website. We're going to show that website. You want to stick around and get to see the website where you can pick up his book. So yeah, this is where you find the attorney. Richard Brent is with us. I have heard that Ty Thompson usually orders his bail bondsman as a side to his attorney request. Well, thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. That's a great comment. Bill from Bad Apples. What's up, car people? What is up, Bill? Thanks for tuning in. You're part of the core. Mean it a lot. Only Ramsey. What's up, fellas? Well, thanks for tuning in, Only Ramsey. Really appreciate it. Richard Brent. Up my weight, cholesterol, blood. but you're healthy. You're healthy and you're stressed. That means you must be in transportation. Hey, Kimberly's with us. Hey, Kimberly, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for helping out. Really appreciate it. Kenneth Hott. Hey, favorite day of the week. Me too, Kenneth. I love Tuesdays, don't you? Man, it's a rat race, and then it's kind of fun. You just kind of launch the show and let it go. Just see what happens, man. We're in slow motion. Bone Crusher 97535 gives a thumbs up. Thank you so much. I appreciate every like, share, subscription, and click of the notification bell I can get. Thank you so much. Hey, Wendy's here. Hey, Jay, thanks for your informative show. Love it. You're welcome, Wendy. I am glad that this show is informative, and I'm really excited to have great experts on the show like Hank Seaton. Truckify, hey Jay, Truckify Car Hauling app is present tonight. We love your utmost contribution to the car hauling industry, bro. Thank you, Moozy. Really appreciate that. And we appreciate your contribution to the industry. Thank you so much. Sue is with us. Hey, everyone. Hey, what's up, Sue? Welcome to the show. Yeah, we're going to do a Murphy Auto Dispatch Services show in the future. We're working on scheduling that, but that's going to happen. Man, got some great stuff coming up, actually. Carlos. Hey, everyone. ACB Logistics. What's up, Carlos? Thanks for tuning in. Truckify, hey, I live in the DC area too. Well, all right, man. You know what? You are going to love this show. I'm telling you. Richard Brand, you know it. Hey, Moozy, Kenneth Hott, hey, Truckify. Mark from Superflow Systems is here. Yeah, well, thank you for feeling welcome, and I appreciate that, Mark. And we love having you on the show, and we're looking forward to. Mark is still, working in the science lab with the beakers and the pipettes and all that fun lab stuff and the Bunsen burners and cooking and mixing. And when he's got it ready, when the formula is set, man, oh man, Superflow Systems is going to be back. Let's see. Sue, Mark, Ty, Carlos, Kimberly, Toe Piglet, rules of the road. What are those rules of the road? These are the rules of the road. Hey, by the way, did you see I got my fancy Supreme Court columns here on the side of the show? I brought those in special. Trucking Answers, Interstate Indiana checking in. What's up, Market Trucking Answers? Listen, you guys know, if you don't already know, that every Monday, Trucking Answers is live on YouTube. Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Central. You got a freight logistics question, man, he has Trucking Answers out the wazoo. Mark, Kimberly, let's see here. Oh, almost skipped ahead. Hey, it's Marcus from Exclusive Luxury Transport in Las Vegas. So there you go, saying hello show. What's up, M. Fields? Thanks for tuning in, man. Leave it to Beeve. Good evening, everyone. First time live with you all. I've been busy watching Jay's older videos from the beginning. Isn't it funny when you go back, any of us, we go back and we see these old family pictures, of us weaving baskets in caves, and we're like, wow, man, life was so different. Even just me, I watched just a video from 2 years ago. I'm like, wow, things have changed, man. Everything's moving so fast. Like, I can't even get film for the Polaroid. What's film? In fact, I laugh. People say, oh, well, there was filming going on. Really? They were using film? Wow. That's amazing. 7 Seas Transport, what's up, everyone in NC? Yo, what's up? KBT Enterprise, hello, what's going on, KBT? Petro Silvestri, hey, first time to the show. Well, thank you, Pedro. I appreciate that. Thanks for saying hello, and thanks for letting me know it's the first time, instead of me stumbling around, wondering if it's your first or your fifth, or if we hang out. I can't keep track anymore. Ernest Martin is with us. Yeah, man. You know what? And I like that you brought up Ty. Ty is on the phone constantly, and yet every time I call, he picks right up. How is that possible? That guy is a phone magician. Gartha Logistics, Seaton and Husk wrote my broker carrier contract. Yeah, dude, seriously. Thanks for bringing that up. By the way, we're going to take a look at some of those contracts. You're going to want to stick around for the CTS, Transport Business Coaching Question of the Day. Truckify, what's up? Ratio Robinson, can my 07 F350 Super Duty haul a 4-car trailer? Does somebody want to help answer that question? I mean, it's a great question. Actually, that is a very common type question that we get, and this is one of the things that keeps Ty so busy, is kind of going into the mechanics of that question. 7 C's, Toe Piglet in the house. Great videos, man. Yeah, Toe Piglet, great resolution. I need to borrow your camera is what we need to do. I need to borrow your camera, shoot some car haulers, and make a decent intro. For goodness sakes. Ty, Ernst, you're welcome. What's up, Ty? Toe Piglet, 7 C's, Mark. I'm like commentating on like Wimbledon. I do this with my kids. Like if I'm watching Wimbledon, I'm like, okay, close-up tennis racket, wide shot of the court. Okay, we're gonna zoom in. We got ball boys on either sides. Okay, and cut to the serve. We're gonna tilt up and swish pan. Boom! There's the racket. He's got the long shot. He's going in and close up. Ball boy, crowd of claps, and cut to commercial. Okay. So anyways, that's how I'm reading the live chat right now. So, all right, man. Well, listen. Okay, that is the live chat. Oh, we're a few minutes behind for industry news. So do me a favor. Stick around. We're going to come back with industry news. Thanks so much.
Welcome to the Gopher driver app training tutorial. Once it is open, you can enter your username and password, then click Log In. The first screen you arrive to is a list of all stop locations assigned to you. click Arrive. Tap Photos to take pictures of the vehicle. In this screen, select your damage codes and tap on the affected area of the vehicle and then click Save. AIAG codes are required for OEM damage reporting. Select your options and add codes as needed. The last button to click is Load. You can also input the customer name and email address if they want a copy of the order. The delivery process is very similar to the pickup process, except now you are unloading vehicles, then working through to the outgate. If you have any additional questions, feel free to call 760-267-9040 or email support@gopher.com.
Hey, welcome back to Auto Transport Intel. Listen, if you're just joining the show, you haven't missed anything. This is the perfect time to sit back, chill out, get your ELD Kool-Aid. I told you, if you were drinking the Kool-Aid and you thought the ELD was perfect, you were wrong. I'm joking. Okay. All right, so let's go into some industry news. Now, by the way, what in the world is industry news? These are the memes and all the stuff that get people thrown into Facebook jail. Nah, it's good stuff. This is interesting stuff. And news and whatnot. For example, it's impossible for a man to tie down a load without saying, "Yeah, that's not going anywhere," while tightening the strap. Dispatch be like, "Quit complaining. It's a drop-in hook." Now, I know this is a freight joke. And what makes it funny is that they clearly, they got to clear off snow. But this happens in car hauling. Maybe even more so. We don't need no stinking law books. Oh, another ELD joke. Man, don't you love a good ELD joke? Man, I love that. Hey, it's Team Member Tuesday. It's also Tuesday Nights Live. So I saw this on the, I think this was Manheim, Nebraska. Omaha, something like that. And I thought it was pretty cool. This is real. This is news. It's car shipping. It's relevant. Thanks for your service, Joe. Team Member Tuesday. Hey, by the way, don't forget that there's a United Road cookout tomorrow. Oh, sweet. 11:30 a.m. at the Vancouver terminal. Join them for the cookout. Sign-on bonus is available. Phone numbers, address. I won't be there, but say hello for me. Say, "Hey, I saw your cookout flyer on Auto Transport Intel." Dallas Boot Camp. Listen, this is Shaggy's. Shaggy is at the GATS, Great American Truck Show. Started yesterday. He's there today. He's there again tomorrow. Shout out to Shaggy's. Notice how I don't think Shaggy's in the show right now. He is probably worn out after day 2. But, he's there, man. Go find him. Go find Shaggy. Shaggy'sExpress.com at the Great American Truck Show. Here's the flyer. It's GATS. It's happening. It starts. Okay, the show. So he's doing his boot camp right now. The show starts Thursday and goes through Saturday. You guys already know this. You guys are at GATS. Who's going to GATS? Raise a hand. Anybody going to GATS? If you're at GATS, going to GATS, thinking about GATS, let me know. At GATS, you might see a guy with a height stick. Maybe. At GATS, you might see a guy with a ton of money sitting in front of a steering wheel. Maybe. At GATS, you might see somebody looking for a CDL or non-CDL driver for Hot Shots in Laredo, Texas with a clean record experience, brand new equipment. There's a phone number. You will definitely find people at GATS looking for other people to do business. You might see a guy with his paper logs at GATS. You might. You might see a guy at GATS talking about $800 for 2 tires. You might. You might see severe overhang issues at GATS. You might. You just might. And you might hear people talking about knuckleheads. A fine example of why the government needs agencies to monitor the rest of us. This load was stayed 70 miles an hour. I really do believe he could fit just one more recliner over the cab. Oh, man. John Bloom, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, man. It's so true, though. What is this guy doing on... Are you serious? I mean, are you... You gotta be kidding. What is going on? Meanwhile, all right, I need you to drive. I need you to pull around back, driver. You're 5 pounds over and you're 5 minutes over. 5 pounds if you're 5 and 5. Pull around. 5 and 5. Driver. You might hear about POV moves, waiting on a little inconsiderate person behind a Walmart to pick up this car that her daddy sent her. You might. You might talk about JB Hunt's technology. So good that today my heart felt, okay. This is what they pull. Load was posted for $585. I put a bid of $900. I get $519 back. When I wrote to them asking what kind of, they blocked me. Okay? So you might find somebody talking about that. You might. You might find somebody talking about the good old days. I guarantee that. I guarantee you'll find somebody talking about the good old days, right? Seaport Service, where's the cab? What's up, Candy? Seaport Service in the house. Okay, but I know. Fun. We've had our fun. Jay, you've had your fun, but it's time to get serious. How many of you are struggling right now and willing to admit it? I saw this on Facebook. Now, this had been only on Facebook for 31 minutes, already had 37 comments. Truth, in the last 3 years, between the issue with my Peterbilt, this truck, and a blown reefer unit last year, the breakdowns have wiped me out. I gave up running the load boards, have a steady run now, not getting rich, but making just enough. In reality, though, I'm struggling and I'm tired, and this may be my last trip. I've been playing with trucks since I was 18, 1988. While trucks have been a good provider, things have changed. From government overreach, ridiculous cost of operation, and of course this rate slump, I'm thinking real hard. And you know, within an hour, I think, of seeing this on Facebook, now this is a freight driver, but driver, freight, carrier, auto, car hauling, reefer, flatbed, lots of folks feeling the same way about posted rates. And I shared a video where Serge the car hauler was talking about how to fail in car hauling. Now, this is a heartfelt video from him. I know him because I saw him in January. A lot of people are feeling this way. And if somebody is telling you this and you're just getting started and you're excited, keep in mind, they're not trying to make you feel bad. They're trying to tell you what they've experienced. And it is tough. It's tough. Man, it's tough. So, in hopes of making a better future and figuring out and understanding how to get there, Ty and I continue to travel. Our next show, we're going to be at the Automotive Logistics Global Detroit Show, September 10th through 12th. Rather than living off the load boards, we encourage you to make relationships with people that have cars and will work with you direct. Try to cut out all the steps in between. This is what we're doing, man. We are trying to help you build that bridge to the path of the future where we all have a better business experience so that we can look in the rearview mirror and think, you know what? We did it. We beat the odds. We got somewhere. We can actually build a business and be proud of what we did. Guys, right after the break, I'm telling you, we have got some awesome information coming up. I'm going to do a little bit of superhighway. Stick around for that. I'll be right back.
Historically, buying and selling wholesale vehicles is time-consuming, expensive, and loaded with risk. With ACV, our 20-minute online auctions provide immediate access to thousands of dealers who are ready to buy. Our inspectors complete comprehensive condition reports right at your dealership, from engine fluid levels and OBD2 scans to paint meter readings and tire tread depths with tons of high-res photos. Our condition reports take the guesswork out of wholesale. The ACV team comes to your dealership, inspects the vehicles you'd like to sell, sell and loads them into the app, and you're selling vehicles in no time. There are no fees for running a vehicle that doesn't sell, and you don't have to worry about transportation to a physical auction. See how ACV can work with your dealership at acvauctions.com.
Hey, thanks for joining me again on Auto Transport Intel. Listen, I forgot to ask this. I hope the audio's okay. I think it is. I just want to make sure it's not too loud or anything like that, that I'm not distorting. Make sure the video's okay. All right, Jay, we got it. You're making sure the show is good. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Listen, if you're just joining me, you're just in time for the Auto Transport Intel Information Superhighway Halls of Justice Edition. So, let's do this. All right, here you guys know it's Auto Transport Intel. We're on the YouTube channel. We got the Facebook page. Hey, what's going on? All right, autotransportintel.com, ctsbusinesscoaching.com. We talked about we're going to be at the Detroit show. You know, you got to go to automotivelogistics.media. Click on events. Oh, here we go. And we're going to click on Detroit. Boom, that's the show we're going to. If you want to find out more about us, let us know. You can email me, autotransportintel@gmail.com. Tonight, listen, go to transcomply.com, scroll down. There we go. There's Henry Seaton, Henry E. Seaton, also known as Hank. You can click here. You can read more. You can go directly to transportationlaw.net. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger, because we are in the information superhighway. Now, what in the world are we going to talk to Hank about? I mean, are we signing a retainer and getting, you know, what are we doing? Or is he going to take our claim and run with it? Well, oh, it's good? Okay, thanks so much. Thank you, guys. Well, here's what we're going to do. I made a list of stuff, all right? And you're going to see this stuff in the live scroll, too. But I made a list of different topics, okay? Things that we got to understand. What are the legal definitions? For example, what is a carrier for hire? You guys see that okay? What is a carrier? What is a transportation carrier for hire? What is a carrier? Did I mention that Hank wrote the rules of the road? It's in here. We're going to talk about that. What's a carrier for hire? What's a broker? What is a broker? A broker, an individual or firm that charges a fee or commission for executing buy and sell orders submitted by an investor, in this case a shipper. So they don't have any trucks. Maybe. Do they? Do they have trucks? Do they have to have trucks? What's a car dealer? Right, you know what a car dealer is. It's where you buy cars. A dealer buys cars, a dealer sells cars. What does that have to do with a carrier and a broker? Well, wait a minute. If a dealer ships a car, is a dealer a broker? Or are they still a dealer? Are they both? Contracts. Now, many people operate as a carrier or a broker or a dealer. And by the way, I'm going to go with carrier on this one. Not many brokers don't have contracts. Almost no dealers don't have contracts. But did you know there's some carriers that don't have contracts? If you're a carrier, you better have a contract. We're going to talk about that. Transportation insurance. You better have insurance. If you're a carrier, you need insurance. If you need a broker, or if you are a broker, you better have broker insurance and make sure your carrier has insurance. If you're acting as a broker and you don't have broker insurance, is that a problem? That could be a problem. We're going to talk about it. What is authority? Do you need, I mean, why not? Just jump in your truck, just like that guy with all the chairs and recliners. Just jump in your truck and start going. Or do you need authority? Do you have, you know this. We're going to talk about it. Damage. What happens if something gets damaged? Obviously, if you're the carrier, you feel like you're responsible. Unless you did a proper inspection, maybe you're not responsible. Maybe it was done that way before you picked it up. What if you're the broker and the carrier damages it? What if you're the dealer hiring a broker and the carrier damages it? Do you have a contract? Do you have insurance? What about safety? Man, this is a big one. This thing, oh, I'm gonna reach for my Kool-Aid again. Hours of service, ELD, and safety. Man, we're going to talk so much about safety tonight, it's going to make you crazy. Because safety schmafety, right? Not when you have a safety score. What? What's a safety score? Transportation liability. All right, I know we said insurance, but then you have liability. And by the way, there's not just cargo liability. There is personal liability, right? If there are personal injuries and damages. What about general liability? What's general liability? Workers' compensation. Anybody have this? Oh my, anybody need it? Oh my goodness. And regulations. Who oversees all this stuff? Oh my gosh. And how easy is it to navigate all the dots and the CFRs and the, well, there's a couple digits before the CFR and then there's a bunch after and then there's all these decimals and more digits and decimals, parentheticals. But nothing messes all this up like technology. New technology, just as soon as I know what a carrier is, a broker is, a dealer, insurance, liability, I got it covered. Oh no, the technology's changing? Oh my goodness. Call the attorney. We got a new load board. I can't even figure out I'm on my mobile app. I don't even know who's hired, who's the carrier, who's the broker, where's the load board, where's the mobile app? Are you kidding? We've completely lost track of what we're doing. So that is the Auto Transport Intel Information Superhighway for tonight. I think I went through it pretty quick. If you're just joining me and you're like, what is this show all about? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Transportation Legal Issues Auto Transport Intel Show, episode 99. I'm so excited to be here hosting this thing. Before we go into the interview, man, we're right on time, by the way. Hang on there, Hank. I'm going to be with you in a minute. Before I invite you into the show, I got a CTS Business Coaching question of the day. By the way, did you know that you can now get your coaching recording? What? You know, you're in that 1 hour. You've paid Ty. You're in the 1 hour. You're coaching. Man, it's information just bouncing off the walls. And you are writing like crazy. We've seen it. We know. Guess what? Now you can get the recording of the coaching session. Ty will throw that in. That is the CTS Business Coaching. That's not even the question of the day. The question of the day is, where do I get a contract template? I'm a carrier. I need a contract. Do you guys have a template? I'm a broker. I'm shipping. Do you guys have a template? You know what we're going to do? We're going to answer that question after the break. Here, let me do this. Look at this. Look at this fancy deal right here. Oh, wait, where'd I go? There he is. Bang! Okay, I'm back. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I want you to stick around. I'm pretty excited because after the break, we are going to be joined by Hank Henry E. Seaton, Esquire. He's going to be on the show. I promise we're going to talk about all of these transportation legal issues, so please stick around. I'll be right back.
When it comes to creating quality car haulers, precise engineering and expert manufacturing is key. Since 1986, Sun Country Trailers has specialized in manufacturing industrial-strength commercial haulers to fit every need. Each Sun Country Trailer car hauler is built with hand-cut steel and precision-cut parts for consistency and craftsmanship you can rely on. Once built, each hauler is sandblasted and given a rich powder coat finish, after which the hydraulics and wiring are expertly installed. Before leaving our manufacturing facility, each car hauler undergoes a stringent inspection, using a checklist and build sheet to ensure premier quality results. Need something unique? Choose among our wide range of upgrade options for a versatile car hauler that meets your precise needs. Our experienced service department is able to help you with any repairs, maintenance, and replacement parts your Sun Country trailer may need. And because we stand by our industry-leading quality, each Sun Country trailer is backed by a 1-year warranty on both the structure and all non-wearable parts. Learn more online at suncountrytrailers.com or call us today at 866-887-2453.
Hey, welcome back again to Auto Transport Intel. Yes. Hank, can you hear me and see me?
I can hear you and see you fine.
All right, cool. I can hear you great. I can't see you yet. There's that button down below. This is all very normal. There we go. There it is. Now do me a favor, Hank. Pull on that top of your monitor like we did the other day. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Pull it. Now let it go. Perfect. Look at that. Dude, welcome to the
Man.
show. Thank you so much.
Technology works.
This is great. Hank?
Hang up so you
Okay.
can be on. Goodbye.
That's Kim, isn't it? Kim is making
That's
sure,
Kim.
right?
Yeah, that's my technical guru. She just got me here.
She is, she's helping you. Now, listen, Hank, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. I know you're very busy, and I mean, you've got so much happening. Please, for folks that aren't
Well, I
familiar,
appreciate all the kudos, but I look forward to doing this. This will be fun.
well, do me a favor. Will you, anybody that's not familiar with who you are, please introduce yourself to the show.
Okay, I'm Henry Seaton. I was in D.C. for 38 years. I practiced transportation law for 45. My practice is primarily representing small carriers and brokers. As you've mentioned, I have done a lot of writing. I wrote for CCJ for 14 years. And my website has a lot of just different types of presentations that might be helpful. The book that you're talking about, I wrote a couple of years ago, and the purpose of the book is to cover all of those nasty little legal issues that small carriers have. And so it's kind of a research tool. The index pretty well tells the story. You mentioned things like contracts, shipper-broker contracts, broker-carrier contracts. I've got a section in there on what I call the dirty dozen, which are the 12, was 12, is probably now 16 different terms that typically show up in broker and carrier contracts that need close examination. We cover the independent contractor issues. We cover Rich's favorite topic, insurance, what pitfalls there are in that. There are sections in turn called, as you can see, handling bumps in the road, cargo claims, freight charge collections, and bankruptcies. As is mentioned earlier, it's not particularly covered here, but I do represent auto haulers, so issues like total constructive loss and things like that are issues that I'm familiar with. And you know, the book has been out for a couple of years. It's in fairly wide circulation, but I would trust that if nobody has a research tool on their desk, this might very well be it. And most of the issues that you ran through in your first 30 minutes are issues that are one way or another covered here.
Fantastic, man. And that's, I mean, there's so much there. And that's where, like, we were talking before, I mean, if you're an individual owner-operator, you've got your hands full of just trying to run a business, let alone navigate all of these issues.
Well, very much. You know, the independent contractor model is got a whole bunch of issues because of the new final mile issue. People are questioning what is regulated and what isn't. Most of the people that will be on the call will be familiar with what's called a leasing agreement. There are federal regulations that govern what have to be in it. They're set up to protect the owner-operator, and then frequently there are lease-to-own arrangements where the owner-operator can be helped to acquire a power equipment. Some of those deals are honest entrepreneurial opportunities. Some can be lethal and end up you own your soul to the company. So all of those things have pitfalls, and particularly for small entrepreneurs, whether you start your own company and have your own DOT authority, or whether you're an owner operator, is one of the big initial issues that we try to help people through.
I saw the question in the live chat about where people can get the book, and I also, and there's the cover again. I wanted to bring up your website here. We had talked about that before. So basically, you can go to transportationlaw.net, right? This is your website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and you'll see over on the left-hand side, it says order book. and you'll see the various issues there in terms of the book, filing for new authority, insurance and bonds, transportation articles, extending credit. You can see there's a list down here of standard transportation agreements and just a plethora of different issues that need to be covered. I'm supported very well by two partners and Bob Reifstein. And for safety issues, we use Rick Gobble, who teaches the course on safety in Oklahoma City. So we have a fairly rounded firm. The other thing I would say about it, since most of what we do is federal transportation law, although we're admitted in Virginia, DC, Maryland, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania, we basically handle and refer cases around the country. So it's very much a national practice.
Wow, that's fantastic. And by the way, I promised the CTS business coaching question of the day: where can you get a contract template? And I believe it's this link right here. If you click transportation agreements on the left hand side and you scroll down, you've got some templates here, don't you?
Yeah, there are some standard agreements. I will tell you this: as the industry has matured, what you have there is just the basics.
Right.
You're hauling automobiles. It's different from having to comply with FSMA requirements, which is foodstuff issues. By and large, I wish it were possible for small carriers to issue their own terms and conditions, but most often shippers attempt to cram down their own terms and conditions on the carriers, large and small, and they will say, sign it. We've never changed our contract for anybody. That's one of the largest misrepresentations going. But you need to know what to look for. As you can see in this broker carrier agreement, I recommend that if you are a carrier, you have your own service terms and conditions which apply by default. The way the law is set up, basically the carrier gets to dictate how they're going to make hamburgers unless they sign a written contract, which then trumps their service terms and conditions. So you need to get in a document on a website or passed out to, at the auction or wherever, if you've got a less sophisticated shipper. These are our terms and conditions. This is the amount of insurance we carry. Here's how we're going to handle the cargo claims. Here's when you're going to pay me. And if you don't pay me, here's the interest and attorney's fees that are going to apply. By and large, a carrier is best served by not waiving all of the general transportation laws that are in place to protect both the carrier and the shipper. For example, Rich will be coming on and he'll readily say, I think, that the cargo insurance a carrier gets basically tracks the common law obligation, does not track total constructive loss. It does not give you coverage if the shipper says, well, we're going to waive inspection and mitigation, which means I'll just decide whether or not it's fixed and what the price is. The insurance company is going to want to get in there and adjust it. It's going to want to apply federal standards. So you need not to sign a contract that outruns your coverage. There are issues like that. Marrying up what you can promise and what risk you can assume with what the shipper or broker asks you to assume. Some of the issues that are most lethal, particularly for small carriers, is what's called an offset. The broker will often say that if you don't pay the cargo claim in 30 days, he's going to offset your freight charges against that claim, and he's going to decide if the claim's valid. Well, if you factored your receivables, all of a sudden you don't have the cash flow to satisfy the factor, and he's left with the opportunity of either riding with you or closing you down. So that can be a spiral of death. And looking for something like offset language and mitigating that, maybe even to the point of taking quick pay from anybody who otherwise would insist on offset is an important thing to do. I could go on with
Wow.
these issues, but it really doesn't matter, particularly whether we're hauling ice cream or cars. There are repeated issues that show up. One's called a homer, and a homer provision you'll see in a contract says that if there's a dispute, you'll go to the shipper or broker's hometown to litigate. Well, if there's a cargo claim in Tennessee and the witnesses are in Tennessee, I certainly don't want to go to Minnesota to litigate, nor can I afford to take the witnesses there. So there's a lot of gamesmanship that goes on in contracts, and we don't have enough time tonight to deal with it.
Wow, but what I really appreciate is that as you kind of take us on a tour through different pitfalls. I mean, you make me think about a lot of things. I guarantee many people listening, whether they're live right now or watching this later, are thinking through some of those situations where they really wish they had somewhere they could ask a pretty in-depth question. One of the things I was thinking about was when I started as a dispatcher for owner-operator car haulers, which is probably the most vulnerable position a new carrier is in when they're on the load boards, and they'll do anything to secure what seems like a good paying load. And the brokers that are posting these loads, that when you accept the dispatch, I mean, you're accepting their terms, all their terms, and only their terms, and the opportunity to try and give your version of a contract, that doesn't exist.
Well, you mentioned something that's really pretty unique, and many truck lawyers wouldn't understand it. But when there's a real difference, as I think everybody on the line knows, between hauling off Mannheim and the new car contracts. New car contracts, although they may have different standards, have what's called potent constructive loss. And that basically says that a car that would not be as determined to be damaged beyond repair, they will consider be crushable. And what happens is, and this is a problem for the large carriers who broker to little guys, you've got to take real interest to be sure that that guy has a different kind of insurance cover. Because ordinarily, if you get in the business and you buy a standard policy without a total constructive loss indemnification, your insurance company's just simply going to walk away from you. And,
wow.
I have argued repeatedly with the larger carriers that there needs to be some arrangement made. It is, in my view, a fallacy to say that the law requires an untitled new car to be destroyed if the same car could run through Mannheim with a note in the window that says it's got structural. So
right.
I'd love to see that change. If I pay the full market value of any other item, I get the item. I've always said, well, all right, look, if I'm an auto hauler and I'm buying this Kia and it runs and I can get it fixed, I ought to be able to use it for sales car. Don't go crush it. Don't even give me the tires. And that's some of the problems that are unique in the auto industry. And I think that's the biggest I got you, is to be sure that your insurance includes those standards. And there are specialty policies that do it.
And I'm glad again, that example helps that this audience, people tuning in right now, it's not just the owner operator in the secondary market. I now have folks that are with fleets that are working only in the new car space tuning into this show, and that is where this information applies. So, and that's why I try to expand this audience of this show to the entire industry as a whole, because at the level where you're talking about information and legal issues, it cross references many different aspects. Whether you're a dealer, carrier, broker, shipper, or third-party provider, you've got to understand the mechanics of how these moving parts affect the other elements of the industry. So
you mentioned the term broker, and you offered a definition of it, which is they're brokers of all kinds: brokers of cars, brokers of insurance, real estate brokers. In the transportation space, property broker is defined as one who arranges for transportation for compensation and is not part of the daily operation of the carrier.
okay.
So anybody who says he's a 3PL but not a broker doesn't understand the regulations. 3PL is arranging for transportation compensation by definition. The biggest problem the poor broker faces is he's caught as the man in the middle, because inevitably his shipper wants to treat him as a carrier. And when they send you a contract, the contract will say hereinafter referred to as transportation service provider or carrier. And then they're asked to sign a contract that says that they'll warrant safety compliance, they'll warrant that the driver's not on drugs, that they will ensure that the hours of service are complied with. All of those duties a broker can get stuck with right in the middle of the transaction. The broker promises the shipper that he will assume risk that the underlying carrier can't assume. Then he's in an awkward situation. He can be faced with an offset and no money to pay the carrier. So, if there's anybody on the line who is a small auto hauler and wants to think about getting into brokerage as well, you got to be careful with it.
Well, and you know what's interesting, and I'm trying to let the links through and all that. And if you do have a question, please do chat it, because I'm monitoring the chat. I'm trying to, but I love listening to the way you explain in detail, because that's one of the problems, is that so many brokers find themselves needing to make a promise to the shipper because of the competition and because the nature of the customer's always right. So they end up in this, I mean, it's a terrible situation. In fact, nothing makes me understand brokers better than hearing a broker tell me what it's like dealing with the shipper. The carrier often feels like the broker is taking the lion's share of the shipper rate, and there are many instances of this, but when you realize what it's like to satisfy the shipper, and how many carriers, especially the owner-operators, they can't satisfy nationwide shippers. They have a specific running lane. So there are situations where a nationwide broker needs to work with carriers on different running lanes and fulfill the needs of the shipper. And then you end up with all these complexities.
Yeah, there's been a real shift in the relationship between the shippers and carriers over long time I've been doing this. In the old days, the shippers were basically looking to establish sustainable relationships with carriers they could trust. And it wasn't what you call procurement law. What we've got now primarily is, it seems as though it's increasingly concentrated in a department of some major company who says, we're going to put out a request for proposal. You got to sign the contract before you can bid on the freight. And if you don't haul it, somebody else will sign it. And ultimately, we get our kudos from our bosses if we get the lowest possible freight rate and you sign the most egregious contract. So the result of that is not a sustainable relationship. It's not looking at what I think is proper negotiation where you sit down and say, all right, look, I understand that the most insurance you can purchase is $100,000 per vehicle, and I understand if I want you to have $500,000, you can't get it. So, I've actually got the insurance as the shipper. Why don't we work together to see how we reduce the insurance cost? Maybe that the shipper takes a release rate of $100,000 per occurrence and self-insures to use that small carrier. But at the end of the day, the total insurance spend is less, and that cost saving is passed on to the insurer. You very rarely see situations in which a small guy can sit down and talk with that level of honesty with a shipper. Now, on dedicated runs where, somebody is going to do a managed deal, and we all sit down and say, how can we cut cost out of this proposition so that the carrier can make $1 and the shipper can make $1 and we can enjoy savings? That's a day that I hope will come again, but I don't expect it.
Well, now it's interesting you say that. And by the way, I know that in the model we've been discussing, I think we're mostly talking, at least me, I'm going to speak for me, I was talking about secondary market and owner-operators, whereas in the new car market, it seems that the carrier more often is dealing directly with the shipper, in that case the OEM. So I think the brokers have a much stronger grasp and hold on the secondary market. I don't expect, I'm saying that because that's my understanding. And what's interesting is that as I talk, it's not lost on me that, I'm way out of my league, trying to talk about the level of specificity involved in the legality and all these elements in the transportation industry. But I'm sharing my understanding, and really, one of the problems is that we all have our own individual understanding of how this industry does work, and it's only in the legal arena when we find out how wrong we really were.
Yeah, and I think that smaller brokers are more receptive to developing close relationships with small carriers than the large transactional brokers. The call boards, the covasant, the bid down the rate situation, I think is not the kind of market that a small carrier really wants to develop.
Yeah.
I do a blogcast with a very sophisticated small carrier, and he preaches and understands that getting sustainable lanes and developing relationships so that he gets first call and doesn't have to do this freight war, sit here and bid it down is a far more sustainable model.
And that's exactly what really we try to tell. When I say we're going to see Ty here in the live panel. Ty and I try to preach the word of creating a business relationship with individuals that that you can contact and make a relationship there and make that your bread and butter of your transport. And then you can fill in the holes with, the standard models as we're discussing. But what I wanted to say is that it's technology. It's that final part that really is shaking up the standard model as I've known it, where you have a broker connecting a shipper to a carrier. What happens if the technology on your mobile app can connect you, the carrier, directly with a shipper that is posting their load for transport, and you as a carrier can take that through the load board, the technology, the mobile app. This is something that a lot of load board, technology, mobile app companies are working on, and it's, I think, legally raising some questions, because is the load board the broker now?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. I have helped some neophytes, several different ones, get started with the load board concept, which is really kind of an Uber comes to trucking concept. And what they really want to do is they want to simplify it so that their standard terms and conditions that are acceptable to the carrier and that are acceptable to the shipper. And they really don't want to play monkey in the middle. So if you go into the load board, they want to say we're a matching service, and ultimately we're forming a contract between the carrier and the shipper. Primarily, I would say it would be in the used car market. And all we want to do is maybe have the visa number of the shipper so we can hold the money in escrow and pay it when it's delivered. So that's the extent we really want to get involved in it. And I think if it ever once gets going, it may really challenge some of the abuses of the large brokers who try to cram down the terms and conditions and break down the rates. The call board peoples can work on maybe a 5 or 8% margin and be very happy, where by the time the transactional broker gets in it, you see the more egregious commissions. So I agree with you. I think that is something that technology will develop, and it's kind of goes back to the old dial-a-truck program 30 years ago.
Wow.
When the call boards were in the truck stops.
And by the way, anybody that doesn't know, dial-a-truck is what DAT, I believe, stands for, right?
It's DAT service,
and
yes.
DAT load board is now the number one, my understanding, is the number one load board in freight today, which was originally created as dial-a-truck.
Yeah, the owner of Dial-a-Truck owned a truck stop in Portland, Oregon. And I was out there visiting one time when CompuNet was getting started. And that was back in the day when he had true technology. He had a portable phone in a briefcase.
Wow, man!
That was about as great as phone technology had become.
And there's your VHS ad right there. What are you doing? Booking a load? Really? That is fantastic. And I tell you what, so I'm dying to talk more about load boards and acting as brokers, some of the ramifications, but I know I think that's going to bring up insurance, and I know it's something that Ty wants to talk about. And now before I talk about that, listen, you shared with me a PowerPoint. Do you want to, we've got that in our back pocket. We can either move forward with that or just keep doing what we're doing. I'm fine either way. And I
well, it's your show. I'm happy doing what we're doing. There is a 17-page down in the weeds issue. And I don't know, maybe you can make it available to people who want it. But if you give me 5 minutes, we can go off strip, and that will conserve some time.
You know what? Here's what I want to do, because actually, that's the thing is, I'm glad you said that. Let's do this. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to pull up your PowerPoint, and we're going to do that. We'll try not to get in the weeds too bad. But I was reading through this, and you have got, there is a lot of really important information here. So, I'm just resizing my screen here, and bear with me, folks. Okay, so I believe, and I won't be able to see all of the live chat, but I've got your PowerPoint presentation pulled up, and away we go. Hank, what do we have here? What is wrong with the use and publication of SMS and preventability? What are we talking about?
Okay, for the past 12 or 13 years, the real hot button of bureaucratic overreach has been the FMCSA's attempt to avoid making safety fitness determinations that the public can rely upon. They created a monster called CSA 2010, which basically was telling the shippers and brokers the insurers, and particularly plaintiffs bar, that they should accept the responsibility of credentialing carriers, and that every roadside bus, every violation of the law should be examined in using the carrier. This had a devastating effect on small carriers. Everybody was worried about what is my SMS scores. Small carriers we're seeing and continue to see inflated insurance costs because of use of SMS methodology. It was foisted on us as what the term guidance means. It never was looked at. It took us until 2016 to convince Congress, of all people, that these scores should be taken down. The scores were taken down, but the bureaucrats haven't given up the overreach. They tried what was called a preventability study, a trial study, and the term preventability is an artificial construct. It's not equal to fault. It's not equal to legal liability. It's not even an indicia of the carrier's future activity, but they have said that we are going to start calling balls and strikes on preventability, and we want to publish it. And this is a real looming issue. If you read Transport Topics, you'll see that they have conflated the terms. That means they've confused the term of preventability with fault. And they're out here saying that the agency's going to determine fault. Well, the ATRI study, which is the ATA's own research arm, suggests that more than 60% of the recordable accidents are not the carrier's fault. But this preventability study would only address about 5% of the accidents, which means that when they get through with it, if some poor one truck Charlie has an accident, it's going to be printed and for everybody to see. There's a very good chance that if they have a couple of one of the two or three people who make a market for small carriers, they'll see their insurance rates go through the roof if they can get insurance. And we're going to have put at a real disadvantage, particularly a small carrier. Now, you got to realize SMS is not approved for the agency's use, and the agency isn't even arguing that this preventability standard has anything to do with their job, certify carriers as safe to operate. So it's really a big push to shift the obligation of determining safety off of its back and onto the shippers. I'm involved in a fair amount of liability lawsuits in which plaintiffs just love to get their hands on this kind of thing because they demonize the small carrier as a bad actor. They tried to convince the jury, oh, this guy had bad scores. He should have never been used by Mr. Big Shipper. As a result of that, Mr. Big Shipper gets frightened and starts putting in barriers against using small carriers. Think about it this way. If you are a big shipper and you know that there's a possibility you can be named in a lawsuit, and you use a carrier that's got only one wreck and only $1 million worth of insurance, you may think twice about using that guy when you think you've got an exposure to a $50 million settlement. When shippers take that attitude, that's when you see them wanting to go do business with the C.H. Robinson or the people who are big enough to take the hit. And so it's anti-competitive. It affects the small carriers. And we'll shift gears a little bit and tell you why we're so active in trying to oppose this. The agency's got no business trying to act like a judge and jury on crashes. For all kinds of reasons, nobody made them a tribunal. They're planning on using government contractors. The standards they're proposing to use are not valid for fault. I'll give you some examples very quickly of how this has quickly gotten screwed up. We've now got this thing called personal conveyance and HOS requirements. As a result of the ELD, the number of violations for hours of service has crashed. We're handling a case for a small carrier who logged off duty on personal conveyance, went 30 miles down the road, was busted by the local county mountie. He said that didn't understand personal conveyance, so he wrote him up for a false log. The next month, his scores went from 0 to an alert. Now, there are insurance companies that are tracking these alerts, even though they aren't published. It's probably going to take him 8 months to get a court date just to contest and prove that invalid. He'll be lucky to stay in business that long. We have repeated instances under the trial program in which carriers have been reported for a recordable accident. They've had front-facing cameras, and I can show you video of where an axle 2 lanes over hits the front of the vehicle, and they say, well, we won't remove that because you can't prove that the driver was either drunk or committing suicide. There are other front-facing camera instances in which the standards are just not met, so the agency won't take it off. The agency posts these things before there's an evaluation of the court date,
Right.
And we suggest that the possibility of loss of business and loss of insurance is something that just isn't sustainable. You flip the next side, I'll give you a slide, I'll give you a little bit more, and then we can get on to something else.
Oh, this is great. Wow.
A real issue is that the agency is not doing its job to vet this new system. There's a thing called the Administrative Procedure Act and rulemaking, which Congress has said is the due process that we have to have before you get an agency that just wakes up in the morning and decides they want to make a new rule, and they publish it and we hung with it. So it's really important that the laws be followed, get a chance to look at this preventability, and we're able to make a record to place it on appeal. The way it's set up now, there's been no consideration on the effect on small carriers. There hadn't been an examination of other options. This isn't being set up for any facts of law or conclusions of fact that would have anything to save us. And if you'll flip on over to one of the last couple of slides, I'll show you that as a result of this guidance, the agency can basically say, well, we asked for your opinion, but we chose to ignore it and do what we want. And that's not the way we want laws to be made. On behalf of a group called the Motor Carrier Regulatory Reform Committee, which includes the auto haulers, we have asked the agency to put this through formal rulemaking and take a breath and not confuse preventability with fault. And on that, so far, the agency has ignored us. So if there are listeners who have had recordable crashes and attempted to use the pilot program that have experiences, good or bad, I'd like for them to contact us and provide us with evidence. If you have had situations in which a crash has been used by a insurance company to increase your rates or cancel you, that's another issue that we need to be able to demonstrate. We do have friends. There is a Small Business Administration, but sometimes we feel like we get nudged out in the swamp that we know goes on by other folks who have a different agenda. And with that, we can go back and cover whatever else you want. But this is an appeal to say that this is one of the true bureaucratic overreaches that we were promised would be addressed during this administration. And so far, it appears as though the career bureaucrats are controlling the way that this is being. I think it's the biggest issue since CSA 2010 came in almost 10 years ago.
You mentioned that if you were in a situation where you wanted to submit information to you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I think you've got on the last slide, you put up my website, transportationlaw.net.
Okay.
You can send it just to Henry Seaton at transportationlaw.net, or you can visit the ASEC website, or I'm sure they've all got your, I hate to put you in the middle, but if they'll forward it to you, you can forward it to me.
Oh, I'd be happy to. Yeah. If anybody has something that you want to get to Henry Seaton, autotransportintel@gmail.com, and I would be happy to get that information and pass that along to you. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know Rich Brenn's going to be coming on. He's an old friend. He certainly knows the insurance market. I expect that he'll sing chorus as to the effect that this has on the insurance market. It's particularly frustrating to me to see a new small carrier pay 3 times the premium for insurance that's available to larger carriers. A lot of it is fear on the part of the insurance industry that the small carrier will be demonized and that every lawsuit will become $1 million buy-in.
Well, and as we know, I mean, almost every week on the industry news, we're seeing another flipped over wedge, and so there's the fuel for anybody that wants to point out that there is all this risk and liability. I mean, you've got photos being shared all the time on social media. You could just point at that and then start to dive into the data. So let's do this. Let's bring in Richard and Ty after the break. What I wanna do is I'm gonna ask you, Hank, to get comfortable because we're in for our 1 hour live panel. We might cut that a little short because it's already 9:15. All right, so let's do this. Let's just let's get our ELD Kool-Aid or whatever we've got on standby. And guys, we're gonna be right back after the break. You're gonna want to stick around. Hey guys, Jay at Auto Transport Intel here. Listen, don't wait until it's too late to get FMCSA and DOT compliant. You need to take care of that right away. The best way to do that is to go visit my friend Brian Riker at Fleet Compliance Solutions. Now, you can go to Fleet Compliance Solutions LLC, or you can also visit him at yourdotguy.com. And here he's got services to help you out, whether you're a single owner operator or a fleet. You can contact him and ask him you can get US DOT compliant, applying for your authority right off, or if you're going to be audited, you're going to need help. And he helps you make sure that you navigate the DOT and be fully compliant when you're going through your safety audit. Also, he can help out with safety training, coaching, OSHA, environmental concerns, help you protect your CDL. You can visit him and his staff. Go to fleetcompliancesolutions.net or yourdotguy.com. Talk to Brian. If you need an expert witness, if you're going to end up in court over a problem, you're going to need some help, and he can help represent you. There are links here. Find out more about Fleet Compliance Solutions. And also, he's got articles and information. If you've got specific questions, you can contact him at 570-228-6210. And I highly encourage you to visit Fleet Compliance Solutions LLC, yourdotguy.com. Tell him ATI sent you. Brian is a friend of the show. Thanks. Okay, so we are back, and what we've got, if you're just joining the show now, I've got Hank Seaton, attorney at law, with me here. We're talking about transportation legal issues And man, here they come. We've got Richard and Ty both entering the live panel right now. There we go, Richard. I can see you. Can you hear us, Richard?
Hear you fine. How about me?
Perfect. And then we got Ty coming in. Richard, please, will you introduce yourself to the show and to our guests?
Thanks for having me back, gentlemen. Good to see you, Hank. How's everything in Tennessee today?
Doing well, a little hot.
There you go. I think I got you beat on that one. I'm sitting down in Phoenix, as some of you know. I'm an old truck insurance geek. Mr. Seaton's been trying to teach me for what might be coming up on 30 years now in my career. Since I first heard him, we enjoy this space together. I did a lot of work in the trucking industry. I've advanced along to some different places. Today with PFA, we are a specialty provider of surety to freight brokers and forwarders. We also provide insurance products to freight brokers. And truck insurance being near and dear to my heart, we're entering into that space too. So as Hank and I have looked at different challenges over the years, in a previous time in my life where, hey, Ty.
Hey.
Time in my life, I was coaching and counseling some freight brokers. Mr. Seaton helped me put together some unique contracts. So hats off to Hank for the help that he's given me over the years.
Yeah, and you know what? And I want to say this is that I know, Richard, you played a big part in helping me get Hank to be on the show. And in fact, if I hadn't talked to you, I would not have realized, other than seeing Hank speak at the Auto Haulers Association, but I wouldn't have known that I might have the ability to actually bring him on the show and actually make this possible. So thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. And Ty, welcome to the show. Ty of CTS Business Coaching. What's going on, Ty?
Well, just another busy day on the phone. Hey, Hank.
Hey, how are you, Ty?
I'm good. Don't know if you remember me. I shook your hand and was that Atlanta?
Yes.
Yeah, we were down there with that crazy freight waves thing next door. I've never seen such a convention.
That was a good time.
Yeah, it was.
No, I'm doing good. It's great to have both you guys. It's a huge deal. Thank you both for coming.
Glad to do it.
Yeah. So here's the hot topic of the day for me. I had actually 2 phone calls. We're trying to figure out what is a central dispatch. Are they a load board or are they a broker? You guys were talking about it earlier.
Right.
They're both. They're both.
They're both?
Yeah, there are cases. I mean, you know, the whole purpose of the broker regulations was basically to see that the broker who received the payment of freight charges transmitted it to the carrier, and the broker's bond and everything else really kind of focuses around those business practices. But the definition of a property broker says that the one who arranges for transportation for compensation, and it doesn't say that you don't need the bond if you're just a load board. So as a result of that, I have always advised people who are a load board to comply with the law. I mean, getting a broker's license has been no big deal. For a load board, the bonding requirement is insignificant. Comply with the law. I mean, you know, it's kind of like people will say, well, gee, you don't have to be a lawyer to give legal advice on that issue. But, you know, if you become a lawyer by simply filing a bond, I think you would be advised to do it. The problem becomes there are so many people who say, I'm just a simple sales agent and not a load board, but they say I'm a sales agent or I run a dispatch office. Now, the definition of a broker says that you arrange for transportation for compensation and you're not tied to one particular entity. So anybody who's a load, who says I'm just running a dispatch service for multiple carriers and they're getting paid, they're still a broker. Why? Because they're making a decision as to whether or not to use carrier A or carrier B.
Wow, man.
So what I'm doing is I'm saying that all of these people says, well, I got a dispatch service. I'm not handling the money, so I'm not a broker. Well, yeah, they are, particularly if they say I'm dispatching for carrier A and B and deciding which one gets the load.
Now, this is very interesting. Wow. Now, if you are not, here's a question, Hank. And I'm so glad I'm not a dispatcher now, because otherwise I'd be really embarrassed. But here's the question. If you're a dispatcher and if you're getting a load and you're not deciding which carrier is going to get it, you know that you're calling on behalf of a carrier. Only one carrier. Maybe you work for several. Let's say I work for 3 carriers. But I know that the load I'm calling about is only for carrier B. Am I acting as a broker?
Well, if you're developing the relationship, and you've got a business card that says dispatch service, and you've got 4 or 5 carriers, and you're making calls for one day and one the next, and inserted yourself, I think you're a broker, and I think you need to have it. Well, let me step away and I'll get the actual definition of a broker, and I think you'll see how it comes out.
Hey, Hank, I got it right here.
I love it. By the way, this is the book.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The statute, it's in 371. I think it's 371.
Yeah, 49 CFR 371.
Interlining. Mm-hmm. Is this interlining?
No, this is broker.
Okay.
No, it's brokerage. I was going to read the exact language of the statute that let's go ahead and talk about it. I'll interject it when I find it.
Okay. Well, a person who for compensation arranges or offers to arrange the transportation of property by an authorized motor carrier.
Mm-hmm. And then read the next section, which says that it's not part of the daily operation of the carrier.
Okay, I gotta find that.
What page? What page are you on?
That's 49 371.2a.
Yeah, 49 CFR 371. Got a few sections in here, but it's in the index.
Yeah.
So right now, and by the way, if you're watching right now, you are learning. You need to get a copy of Rules of the Road by Henry E. Seaton, Esquire. This is Hank right here. This is the book. He wrote this book. How do you get the book? Go to transportationlaw.net. All right. 49.
Now I feel bad I didn't get my book out before this show.
Man.
I moved it. It's still in a box.
I had this in a lawsuit, and it came out when somebody was arguing, "Oh, I'm just a dispatch service,"
Wow.
So I had to research it, and I've got a bunch of case law on it if anybody wants it.
And why? Here, tell us why. Why did the dispatcher end up in the lawsuit?
The dispatcher was trying to enforce a contract, and you can quickly get into it. Say in California, they've got a law that says that if you're supposed to be a regulated entity and you aren't, you can't enforce a contract. So the dispatch agent was claiming that he could enforce a covenant not to compete. And the carrier said, "No, you're not a broker. You don't have the right to enforce the covenant."
Wow.
So I mean, it does occasionally come up. But all I'm saying is I can't for the life of me figure out if I'm going to set up a business representing multiple carriers, why I don't just simply get a bond, and not then have to try to say, well, I'm running an exclusive deal. I've seen people who said, "Look, I'm going to be an agent. I'm going to set up in California, and I'll divide up the market. I'll find loads going back to Iowa for Iowa beef. I'll find loads going to Tennessee for Tennessee steel haulers." And they say, "I've really divided up the market, so I really can't choose between them." But then it still begs the question, do you want somebody challenging your legitimacy by saying, "Well, you're arranging for transportation for compensation, and you're not and you're not a slave to one person.
So I'm going to do this too. Since the dispatcher right now is feeling the heat, this is kind of like a survival reality show. Let's switch up the chairs. Let's talk about either dealers or load boards. Let's talk about, everybody wants to talk about central dispatch.
I got it.
Go ahead, Ty.
Okay, Hank, you ready?
Yeah,
Richard and I have already talked about this, so we're going to throw this at you, okay? I'm a car dealer, and I pay $150 a month to be on central dispatch. I sell cars online all day, all week, all month, all year. I sell a car to a customer that's in Oregon, and I'm in Texas. I throw the car up on central dispatch, and I get somebody to move it. What am I?
well, if you are a car broker and you have taken title to the car, and your role in the relationship is not in providing transportation, but in getting a car that you have an interest in, you're not a broker, because you're not arranging for transportation for compensation. Let me give you an example that's nearer to me. There are people in the business that are called food brokers. And these food brokers will never take possession of food products, but they'll go to Publix and buy their excess capacity of canned goods and turn around and sell it to Kroger. Okay? Now, they didn't manufacture the food. It isn't picked up at Publix and delivered to Kroger. In fact, they often have a blind routing. They pick it up at Publix and don't tell Publix where it's going and have it delivered to Kroger. But because they are primary business is in brokering the commodity, not the transportation, they don't have to have a broker's license.
Well, see, the reason I was throwing the dealer out there is because the dealer, I think, is being compensated. Whether that's through the transportation by throwing it up there for $500 and keeping 100, or they're being compensated for the purchase of the car. So if the guy picks up the car from the dealer, now you've got the carrier, the dealer, and the guy that bought the car. So where does that put everybody?
Well, I mean, look, if I'm a commodities broker or a car broker, and I buy a car that's in California for X, and I sell it for a delivered price in Tennessee for Y, and I pay a carrier to move it, I'm not a broker.
Now, that was my point to Ty, Hank. When does the ownership transfer, right? And that's where I wasn't clear on where the line was, as he and I were talking the other day. If I bought this thing down in Florida, and and it was FOB Florida, and then a guy goes, "Hey, I can get that to you," and then steps in and says, "Oh, that'll be another $500 to get it to you." Now that's kind of where I'm looking at his scenario differently.
Yeah, I don't think the absence of the transfer of title to the agent would necessarily queer the fact that he's basically buying the car in one market and offering it as a delivered price on another. I think we all know that a lot of people who are consignors will sell FOB origin and then do a prepay and add and pay the trucker. When they do that, although they're adding the transportation charge to the invoice for the goods, it's a prepay and add. And the protection now on that from mischief is what's called the the truth in billing says that if I'm going to be telling a customer, oh yeah, I'm not going to offer you an all-in price. The car is X, but I'll get it moved for you for $500, and that's a separate invoice, and I'm taking a commission out of that. Then I probably got a problem, because the truth in billing would say that you would have to tell that customer, oh, by the way, I'm getting a kickback on it. Because otherwise, on those kinds of deals, when there's the ultimate payer of the transportation price doesn't know that there's a kickback, there's a violation.
So if I'm clear on recap here, there's two issues. One, if you're collecting compensation for the transportation, then you are acting as a broker. Correct?
No, I didn't say that at all.
Okay, so the dispatcher.
I didn't say that at all. I said that
trying to clarify.
If I am selling a car for a price certain, FOB point of delivery, and I've got an interest in the car, then whatever my delivered price is my delivered price. If, on the other hand, I have I'm buying a car, FOB origin, and I tell Mr. Customer, oh, by the way, I can arrange for the transportation, and that'll be $900. Then I probably violated the truth in billing if I'm actually only paying $7.
And in this case, because of that money and collection, that's brokering. True?
No, I'm saying in this case that'd be a violation of the truth in billing.
Okay.
He's still got a vested interest in the item. It's whether it's sold FOB origin or FOB destination.
Okay. All right.
The difference between that and brokerage is he's really not in the business of arranging for transportation for compensation. He's in the business of selling cars.
Right. No, and
Well, that's true, but that's not. It's changing. I mean, there are dealerships that have whole departments in the back that they do nothing but sell cars online all day long and get them moved somehow.
So what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I mean,
Well, here's my problem.
If I go to CarMax today and I want a 2012 Mercedes Benz, whatever it is, and they say, we ain't got it here in Tennessee, but that'll be X and we'll have it delivered to you in 2 days from Indiana, they're not a broker.
True. So
if I go to one of the websites, and say I want this car, and somebody gives me a delivered price and I pay a delivered price, and it's their car or they're the broker who arranged for the sale, they're not a broker by doing that.
And so if the dealer is collecting
not a property broker, they're probably a car broker.
If the dealer is collecting a fee called a transport fee and they have that on the books, they're not brokering?
I think what you're missing is if the dealer has a legitimate interest in the car.
Okay.
And the question is just whether it's prepay and add or FOB origin or FOB destination. He doesn't have to have a broker's license.
Okay.
But if he misrepresents the freight charges and takes a commission out of
That's
it,
a violation.
he's just like he's committed a violation.
Okay.
And that's a different violation.
Okay.
So here's what's happening, Hank.
Thank you, Hank.
I'm a car dealer. I can pay $150 a month, and I can post a car on Central Dispatch for 50 cents a mile per car, right? That's what I call playing in our playground, and you don't have to have the license. You don't have to have the insurance. You don't have to have the MC, DS, DOT, FMSCA. You don't have to have all that.
It sounds like you're raising a situation that's beyond the pale. They're advertising that they're arranging for transportation rather than selling cars.
Right.
Well, if you advertise that you're arranging for transportation, I don't see how you can claim you're not a broker. I mean, I thought that Central Dispatch was a place where a legitimate purchaser of a car could get that car moved by placing it on the board. I thought that they were a customer, not a vendor on Central Dispatch.
Okay, most are vendors. Most are third parties that they never owned the car. They don't have a truck. They are not a carrier. They're literally a 3PL, third-party broker. That's most of Central Dispatch. Most.
Okay,
yeah.
Then I misunderstood.
That's
because
okay.
I was under the impression that you all were saying they were car dealers.
Well, here
they're not dealing in a car. They're dealing in moving a car.
Well, we are mixing. Listen, we're mixing it together, and the thing is, you know why? Because on Central Dispatch, it's all mixed together. On Central Dispatch, and I'm speaking as an observer and user of Central Dispatch, not as an authority or an expert, but as a user, and that is that you will find loads posted on Central Dispatch by mostly third-party brokers that have set up a shingle, said they're a broker, and put contracts in front of carriers, post cars. They don't have trucks. They don't have the car. They're not the customer. They are literally brokering between a shipper and a carrier. That's most of the people on Central Dispatch, but some are also dealers.
Well, send me the simple contract, because if the contract doesn't say whereas they are a shipper, and whereas they've got if they're not defined as anything other than an arranger of transportation, we'll see how they're escaping being a property broker.
Well, and so a lot of these brokers, I want to go further and say a lot of these brokers do have the paperwork, the broker bond, the MC number, and they have set themselves up as a legitimate company. But there are cases where people wonder, because there's all kinds of funny business. And actually, that is the biggest complaint of Central Dispatch. Somebody once said that Central Dispatch is like a grocery store during a riot.
Well, look, guys, I'm not familiar with Central Dispatch, but I know doggone well that the other load boards with Carrier 411 and all of the other stuff go to great extremes to be able to say, who is this intermediary? Is he legit? Does he have a bond? Here's the reporting system to report bad brokers. And I don't see how somebody doing what you're talking about could survive long and do shady stuff on one of the traditional.
And that's one of the legitimate gripes, is that there isn't this long game happening. It's just this fly-by-night, hey man, I'm gonna go ahead and post it. And by the way, this would be a complaint on the other side of many brokers, of carriers that just, they go out, I got a truck and I'm going to start carrying stuff, and let's just do this.
Well, try this one on for size.
Okay.
Let's assume that some dude is doing this on Central Dispatch, and he isn't a broker, and he doesn't have the $75,000 bond posted with Rich. So all of a sudden he gets a case of the shorts and he can't pay his freight charges. He's a broker and he's supposed to be. Okay? The owner of that operation and anybody else who participates with him in it is liable for paying the freight charges and for a fine under MAP 21. So it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea for a load board to have people out there that they know or should have known are not licensed and bonded. Because, I mean, you know, the real big deal is, since the bond's not an issue, it's the bona fides of the individual to be properly licensed and bonded.
So,
And if you tell me they're doing the exact same thing that United Road or somebody's doing, they're just not calling themselves a broker, then I don't see how they're getting away with it. And the only time that it will really show up is when one of these guys flips over.
well, and I want to say this in all fairness, because if I worked for Central Dispatch right now, I'd be like, what is going on here? Well, I will say this: I don't think that scenario is the majority. In fact, I think it's a distinct minority, less than 10%. I know that a lot of people know about the increase in the bond, and the people that nearly all of the businesses posting cars on Central probably have the bond taken care of. But what's happening is, as we move forward with technology, and as you talked about earlier, that you've had folks wanting to know, if I set up a load board, if I create a technology where basically I'm the quote-unquote broker, but I haven't looked into getting my bond, well, what do you think about that? I mean, is there a difference between a conventional call the broker and a technology acting as a broker?
Well, you see, the FMCSA isn't going to go police this. As a practical matter, nobody's probably going to get sued unless this middleman collects money from a customer and doesn't transmit it in trust to the guy he hires. Now, let's assume, for the sake of argument, that this middleman doesn't want to get a broker's license, doesn't feel as though he needs it. But all of a sudden, he's guaranteed somebody that he'll pay cargo claims, and he gets a cargo claim that gives him an insolvency, and he can't get it from Two Truck Charlie. So what he does is, he's now got a big hole in his pocket where he owes 15 other carriers, but he doesn't have the money to pay them, because it's been offset. You know, he's set himself up to basically guarantee the solvency of all of his customers, and he's got a case of the shorts. Well, he can't say, hey, here's my $75,000 bond, don't come get my house, because he doesn't have a constructive trust and he doesn't have a bond. And it's those kinds of guys that ultimately have some explaining to do. And that's where the law comes in. You know, I've got a situation, name will be nameless. This company, I don't know how, but they operated for years in the air freight space, providing substituted motor for air business. They got into some bad business deals, went out of business owing $4.5 million. And then all of a sudden, we found out they didn't have a bond. They're personally on the hook for it. They didn't have a license.
Wow.
So I mean, you know, I think they were just how they got away with it. But the personal exposure from not being a licensed broker is really pretty easily set out in MAP 21. And if I were running a load board and I had people that were posting to get loads or to offer loads, if they weren't a legitimate customer and they were arranging for transportation for compensation, they'd have a qualification package just like everybody else. I see Rich nodding his head. We've been involved with the little trade association that has some of the same problems, which is a vetting problem. A vetting problem to being sure that the guy who's a carrier and posting trucks actually operates those trucks. And, you know, that's basically a question of trust but verify. And in that case, you need to get down to almost see the VIN number and the name on the side of the truck.
Yeah.
Well, it really isn't any different on the broker side. You know, all that I know about the vetting services for brokers, and you know, for years which is in Arizona. But going back a ways, there was an outfit called Complicate Credit Services, and bad brokers were everywhere. And the bond wasn't really very significant. But boy, as soon as somebody got posted, the deadbeat list went out. And if some broker thought it was a bad bust, they were calling me to call balls and strikes. Sometimes it would be that, well, the broker would say, I pay within 30 days of receipt of invoice, and this clown is trying to say I'm in default based upon the date of delivery. I just got his invoice. So, I mean, you know, that industry has traditionally been a very suspicious group, because you couldn't reach out and feel that broker. He was in Rancho Cucamonga. And I guess I just don't see how or why that central dispatch is different from what we went through with DAT. The reason that I was in Portland all those years ago with DAT was to help them set up their vetting services for the brokers they were putting on the line.
And this is it. This is why so many carriers are so upset, because the vetting process seems to be non-existent today. We know there's a rating system, but what does it even mean?
We want you to come to Central Dispatch with us.
And by the way, I want to say this too: is this, Hank? You line them up. And
let me make a disclaimer here.
Yeah.
I've never had a case with Central Dispatch.
Right.
I don't know them from a bar of soap. All I'm telling you is based upon experience, that every load board I know has had a bite taken out of their ass when they let people post on there that had no credibility and hadn't been checked out.
And here's the thing: is that I'm going to add to the disclaimer that it is my belief that a company like Cox Automotive has their I's dotted and T's crossed, okay? But the thing is, when it comes to Central Dispatch, carriers complain every single day that they feel like they don't understand how the ratings don't seem to mean anything. I've heard so many carriers say, I don't even bother anymore because the ratings only work against us. But it just seems like anybody can post on Central. And I wanted to say this, is that, Hank, you know, hearing you talk about some of the specifics, I want to say this: anybody, if you're a dispatcher, broker, or you just are even thinking about arranging for transportation and being compensated, you want to talk to Richard Bren. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen. Richard, it's R. Bren, right? R. Bren at pfaprotects.com. Is that right?
Right.
Email Richard. If you are watching this show going, oh my God, I don't have a $75,000 bond, I don't have MAP 20 or MAP 21 or MAP 22, I'm going to email Richard and find out what's my exposure, and do I need, what do I need? Right?
Yeah, I think Richard will certainly agree with this too. When MAP 21 came down and the bond went to 75,000, there were certain trade associations that said, hot damn, we'll get a $10,000 premium for this, and we'll run all these little guys out of business.
Yeah.
But people like Pacific Financial and other folks came along, so that ultimately the amount that a guy pays for his bond pales in comparison to the cost of one 2010 Peterbilt. I mean, when you look at the cost of insuring a truck or purchasing a truck, a guy who can get in business brokering freight with a desk, a telephone, and a $75,000 bond can hardly claim that he's a small businessman who's being deprived of anything.
Richard?
I'm going to throw one more thing out there, too. I mean, guys like Hank, and like I said, I've learned a lot through the years. I think the most critical thing to keep in mind, this is about, regulations, contracts, and that, keep that in mind. You hit it on Hank's website. The best The best advice I gave to any freight brokers that I worked with until I found good quality insurance products was you got to manage this risk. And you need to understand the regulations under which you're operating. You need to have a good contract in place that's going to protect you. Protect you with the shippers. It's going to protect you with the carriers that you're using. What if that carrier's insurance fails to respond? You still have a right to get money back from them. And, you're trying to protect yourself in between there. But then most importantly, as a freight broker, the motor carriers that you select, and I was sitting here, prepping for this tonight, looking at a freight broker we work with who picked a motor carrier that used a subhauler. So now you got a whole nother word coming out, and he chose someone in California under the subhaul laws. Typically we call those long-term lessor owner operators, but you're in the Republic of California, you got some other funky dynamics going on there. So once again, you've got a different motor carrier, you got another MCP, you got some more insurance laying into it. If you don't know what you're walking into, you ever walked into a spider web and how eerie they get and they're all over you? I mean, that's the way this feels when you get wound up in some of this stuff. And, guys like Hank through the years have seen it. They know the regulations, have a good contract, vet the good carriers. And there's other stuff that's going to happen to you, but those are three primary things. If you're gonna do this brokerage side of the transport right, and you as a transporter better be looking at what Hank said too, that somebody's not throwing a rotten contract in front of you that you can't live up to.
Yeah, the role of the broker is not to promise the shipper anything that he's not confident he can get from the carrier, because the obligations that he should be willing to assume are not that he's going to provide transportation, but that he's going to arrange for transportation, and that he's going to contractually require the carrier to meet the expectancies of the shipper. So, if there is a risk in the middle, like insurance, then you've got to look at contingent cargo insurance. You got to be very careful what you buy. Because if it follows form and you're promising some dude $200,000 worth of coverage and the underlying policy offers none, then, all of a sudden you're going to find your contingent policy isn't worth anything. So, I mean, there are all kinds of potholes in the road. That particular one is covered in the book, and I see Rich nodding. He knows full well how flaky contingent cargo insurance is.
Yeah.
I was typing, another, if you get, it's interesting, get the book. You want the book? You need the book? Get The Rules of the Road by Hank Seaton. Go to transportationlaw.net. The links are there in the margin. And, we're not here to sell books. We're here to give information. But that's the thing is, I right here, in the past hour, I know there's been enough questions raised. Even people that I've been doing business with right now, I think, are thinking, oh my gosh, I got it. There is more certification that I need. I need more protection. It's kind of freaky.
And Richard, I think Rich is aware of this. When MAP 21 came in, the trade association that represents the brokers put in all kinds of crazy things about that to become a broker, you'd have to have 3 years experience and a whole lot of else. The agency hadn't adopted any of that. So, anybody can walk in and file for a broker's license post the
I'm actually going to put a link to study. If you want to learn more about MAP 21 and everything that Hank is talking about, I put a link. It's to the fhwa.dot.gov website, and I think that's where they kind of outline what MAP 21 is about. The moving ahead for progress in the 21st century. That should have been the CTS business coaching question of the day. What is MAP 21? Because it is. And hey, do this. I said interlining earlier. Interlining? What is interlining?
Okay. I'm going to tell you what interlining is. Then I'm going to tell you what convenience interlining is.
Okay.
Interlining is an old concept that was particularly popular back in the days when rates were, or when routes were highly regulated. And to get a shipment moved from New York to Nashville, one carrier didn't have the authority to go from New York to Nashville. So the LTL shipment would be picked up in New York by Yellow, and Yellow would bring it, let's say, as far as Nashville, and then Hohenwald Truck Line is ultimately going to Hohenwald. They would take it that last mile. That was called an interline when it took two or more carriers to complete the move from origin to destination. And they weren't brokering freight, they were interlining, and they had a concurrence. And a concurrence was a simple agreement that said, you'll handle it to Nashville and you'll handle it to Hohenwald. And if it's on the origin carrier's truck when it's beat up, he'll pay the claim. Otherwise, if it's on Hohenwald's truck, they'll pay the claim. And there is still a regulation in CARMAC, which handles cargo claims, that says that if there are two or more carriers in a through movement, the shipper can sue anybody he wants. But ultimately, the right of indemnity extends by the participant in that multiple line move to the guy who caused the accident or to the guy who had the wreck. So that's interlining, and it was when two or more carriers arranged for transportation that were provided by an origin carrier in conjunction with the delivery carrier. Now, I told you I was going to tell you about convenience interlining. Convenience interlining was the concept approved by the ICC that said that if I had authority from New York to Hohenwald, and I didn't have a truck, but somebody else did, I could give him that load. I could name myself as the origin carrier, and he could handle it from origin to destination. Why? Because I had the right to subcontract that load. That case, it was called convenience interlining. And it happened all the damn time. It happened all the time. Many very large carriers convenience interlined freight before MAP 21. So MAP 21 comes down, and the idiots in Washington got the idea all confused, and they said, well, no, if the shipment is convenience interline from origin to destination, we're going to require the origin carrier to also have a broker's license and run it through the brokerage. So that's how we got to the unfortunate situation that major carriers end up having their name on a bill of lading. It's a brokered shipment, and then plaintiff's bar comes in and sues the major carrier and says, well, you were acting as a carrier. They don't understand the concept. And that's why most insurers say, if you're going to do this, and I'll just pick on somebody, if you're Schneider, make very clear when that convenience interline is being handled by Schneider Logistics, and don't get Schneider's name on the bill of lading because they'll be sued.
This is what Richard talks about. Set up a separate business entity, right?
Oh, absolutely. We agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
But if you look around, you'll be surprised how many Fortune 500 carriers, for sales purposes, don't do that.
Right.
They don't do that. And when they get sued, the first thing plaintiff's bar does is say, I want to put your safety director for Mr. 4,000 truck fleet on the stand and ask him if he were hiring this dude as an owner operator that had direct, would he have hired him? So then they use their selection standards against them in an up supply chain deal. That's why the best advice is, if you're going to do that, set up a freight forwarder affiliate or a broker affiliate and call it something else.
And well, I was gonna say freight forwarder earlier, because when we talk about recovery cars and banks, they're going through freight forwarders, right? They're not doing that internally. I know I've just moved the ball around, but essentially,
Yeah, but see, here's the difference.
okay.
Originally, a freight forwarder was someone who was a non-asset-based carrier. They accepted cargo liability, and in the ordinary course of their business, they provided assembly and distribution. So everybody thought, well, hey, they had to be an LTL business. But it's very clear that a freight forwarder, and the distinction between that and a property broker is both of them have to have a bond, but a freight forwarder can have primary cargo insurance and satisfy the itch of the shipper that his cargo claim is going to be handled. Now, he's going to pay a little more, but that assurance is an easier sell on the shipper, because the shipper knows now that he's going to file his cargo claim with the freight forwarder, and the freight forwarder has got the money to pay it, and he's not going to get G'd and hawed by Two Truck Charlie having some crazy policy that doesn't provide coverage. Rich, you're nodding. Lobby in on that, buddy.
Well, again, I mean, that is one of those critical things. I mean, back to the prior point, when you take that load, what did you declare yourself to be? The carrier, whose name will be on the bill of lading, or a broker who's going to find another carrier whose name's on the bill of lading? And to the point that Hank just went through, this whole forwarding thing, in a parallel industry, the final mile, the home delivery, the bringing stuff into your house. You know, I've worked with a lot of these people that were trying to break their model down, and the forwarder model is one that I suggested simply because of what Hank's talking about on the cargo. You can make sure that you are telling the party for whom you are delivering these things, we're going to keep the cargo liability, right? The forwarder is going to make sure that should a claim arise, you're not going to deal with that contractor's insurance. You're going to take care of it yourself. So that was one of those, you know, if you're going to set yourself up to pose yourself to look good in the market, the forwarder, in my opinion, based on guys like Hank talking about it, was the model to follow. It's a way to be able to say, hey, shipper, I'll get your stuff there. If there's a problem with that cargo, you and I are talking about it. We're going to get it fixed for you. And we're not going to worry about all these other schmoes that were in the process. I'm still not taking liability for any auto claim that happens out on the street. That's still going to be somebody else's problem.
Yeah, I don't have the policy for the plaintiff's bar to even go after. This is actually chapter 8 of the book, Outsourcing Truckload Freight After Map 21. So it is a approach that I think time has really come, because particularly in truckload freight with the owner-operator model under such pressure, a lot of people are going to what they call power only. So somebody like CR England will put a whole bunch of trailers into a dock, but they'll want to come bring Two Truck Charlie in as a power only. Well, what they've got to do is they've got to go back to their shipper and explain to him, we signed a contract that said we would provide only our own equipment and we wouldn't double broker it. But we're going into this power only thing, and we want you to sign an addendum that says you understand that we will retain other carriers to provide service. We'll be acting as a freight forwarder. We warrant the cargo claims will be paid, and we will indemnify and hold you harmless for any negligent selection or failure to pay it. And I've had to negotiate that kind of deal with some major shippers, and they realize the need for spotted trailers and for the power only. The sophisticated ones have had no problem. And I think you'll see that. I don't know exactly its application in the car holding business because of the trailer seems to be somewhat attached to the tractor. But that is going to be a model that we're going to see, I think, in the next few years, particularly as it's cheaper to have an extra trailer than it is somebody sitting there waiting for the dock to open.
And as you mentioned that, exactly, as technology and the robotization, of the small moves that can be automated, this is going to get very interesting. We know this in the talk about autonomous vehicles and what will happen with the legal issues there. Talk about the legal issues that will come into the automation and the new technologies in transportation that kind of changes the landscape. About a drone delivering in the air. Love to see how those legal issues are going to shake out. But I want to say this, bringing us back to earth here. Gary, Gartho Logistics, he says hello, Hank, and he says, here's a good basic question. This is great. Gary asks, is a broker covered as a certificate holder on the carrier's policy?
A certificate holder is worth nothing.
Whoa.
It's worth nothing. All it says on that accord is that there has been a policy issued. You better read the policy to see what's covered. Okay? It is not, you can even be named an additional insured. And at that point, about all you get is notice of cancellation. Okay? So maybe an additional named insured might get you something, but getting down into the weeds of the policy is really, really difficult.
I'm going to throw three things out. The COI, certificate of insurance, it's an indication only, as Hank said. They can be as fraudulent. There are fraudulent certs out there that look better than the ones our agency issues. So there are people that steal other people's policy numbers and put together certs. So beware of the party that issued it and provided it to you, right? So it's only a certificate. I'm going to speak to auto liability. Auto liability has a built-in additional insured. The shipper, anybody who helped arrange it, they are already built into it. So when the broker gets sued, when the shipper gets sued after a trucker has an accident, they're automatically, per the terms of the auto liability coverage, they're automatically covered. So if you go after an additional insured from the auto policy, the best you're going to get is a piece of paper that tells you that you're a designated insured, and it repeats what the policy says. It repeats what the policy already gives to you. So
yeah, but here's an issue, and I know Rich will agree with me. You've got what's called a BMC endorsement, which says that regardless of any exclusion in that policy, there's going to be $750 or $1 million worth of insurance. And if there is that, then you got a first layer of protection. But the other thing is, for most policies, you take whatever warts are in the underlying coverage. One of the big issues is if it's a specified vehicle policy, but for the endorsement, if the vehicle that had the wreck wasn't on the policy, the insurance company's going to walk away from it, notwithstanding what's on the accord.
And to Hank's point, the claim that I was talking about earlier, because they use this subhauler, that trucker's cargo doesn't want to pay for it because they got a subhauler that was supposed to bring cargo with them to the contract, right? So they used this is under that subhauler nightmare out in California. So once again, to Hank's point, and back to that other trade group that we were talking about, when someone that you're entrusting cargo to is taking it, how does that cargo policy respond? And are there exclusions to specific units, to certain commodities and problems that way? Again, you can't get an additional insured on a cargo policy. And if you want to be a loss payee, the reality is the party that files the claim is the loss payee. I mean, that party who shows up with paperwork and says, somebody trashed my car, my cargo, right? That's the party demanding payment. So under the cargo policy, it just has a natural rhythm under which it works. If you're the party that we owe money to, you're the party that's filing the claim, right? And you will become the lost payee automatically when you have proper documentation of your loss. I'm going to hit on two other things that that auto transporters get demands for. General liability, all right? That's another form of coverage that's demanded. Sometimes you're going into these certain auctions, right? And they want to see that you have GL on your policy. That's because you could do things on their premises that are not related to you driving the car. You could punch somebody in the nose. You could throw a cigarette butt over the wall, start a fire. You could possibly have a dog along with you in your truck, and that dog gets out and bites someone. All right, those aren't auto related things, and sometimes you get on a forklift that you're not supposed to be operating and you run over somebody with it. That's a general liability claim. So those are the things that they've seen these big claims happen, or they've had a risk manager tell them this is what's going to happen. And then the fourth thing I'm going to throw out is workers' comp. And that is a huge issue where people get hurt on someone else's premises, and then they try to say that you made for an unprotected, it was an unsafe place. And so you do see a growing demand to bring workers' comp, and then what they call the waiver of subrogation. They're saying your policy needs to say you're not going to subrogate. You're not going to come back to us to get money back should somebody get hurt. So
yeah, let me interrupt. This is a little sidelight, but it does have an application to auto haulers. Traditionally, auto haulers have used a lot of independent contractors. And as a result of that, the smart money has always said get occupational accident insurance. So if somebody's injured on the job, he's not destitute. And the difference between that and the workman's comp premium can be astronomical. Well, there's now what's called the ABC test, and certain states have just absolutely gone dark for the independent contractor model. California being one, New Jersey, New York, maybe Massachusetts. And there is a virulent attack on the independent contractor model. Class action suits coming out of nowhere in which independent contractors are being reclassified as employees, back workers' comp, all of those kinds of things, tests in blue states that nobody can pass. And that's putting extreme pressure on the independent contractor model. I see one auto hauler fairly frequently, and I kid him and say, when are you going to move to Tennessee? Because realistically, the last one out of California turned out the lights. It is not a very hospitable place to a small business.
Well, that brings me back to reading about CARB last week. That's a whole nother issue, but wow, guys, this is unbelievable. I mean, if your head is not spinning, then you just got here.
My head's spinning.
My head is spinning. Yeah, it is.
You guys are amazing.
It is. And here's the thing: is that ultimately all this overdose of knowledge, the purpose is to make you think about what could go wrong. I know, Richard, you love to talk about this. What would be the worst thing to happen, right? What could be the worst thing? And if you can actually see that, then all you got to do is follow the steps and make sure that if that worst thing does happen, you're okay.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
Wow. But understanding the elements of that worst case scenario, Hank, that's where your expertise and the way that I love it when you talk about, I mean, at that level, all I can say is I can't wait until we do something again. I don't know what it is. Go ahead, Ty. What were you gonna say?
Well, I know we're wrapping it up, but Hank, you had mentioned something earlier that you were wanting. You kind of said, "Hey, if anybody's ran into this, give me a call or send it my way." What was that again? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, what we were talking about earlier on is this preventability notice that's out on the street from the FMCSA. They're asking for notice and comment. If you don't agree with them, they're probably going to ignore it. What we have said is that we are pushing them to have to put this through a full rule so we can bring out the effect that it'll have on small carriers, the effect it'll have on insurance rates, the effect that it'll have on shipper access. There are shippers who want to use anything the agency puts out as a vetting criteria because they're afraid they're going to be sued. This is what happened in 2010, and I'm predicting another wave of it, that if Two Truck Charlie has an accident, he's going to find progressive canceling.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I'm really trolling for is examples of people who say, yep, I was a victim. I had an accident. It wasn't my fault. It was published. I'm in a sub-market because I'm a newbie and I can't get coverage. And, Rich, I don't know whether you were listening in when I made my pitch, but you know what it is, and you know what I'm looking for in terms of what's going on in the industry. They try to say that preventability is fault and it has nothing to do with one another.
Well, and that's the hard part. And Hank and I have both seen it, and again, there's very rarely one thing that leads to any kind of an accident, whether it's an auto crash or whatever, right? There's a series of events that lead to that happening. And to Hank's point, due to distracted drivers, congested, right, and impaired drivers, and that trucker could have just been out there doing his job as he needed to.
Pedestrian, bicycles.
Yep. And maybe his hours of service weren't perfect. Maybe his brakes weren't perfect. But did that really contribute to the accident? And to Hank's point, these things come up, the insurance companies freak out. You look like you're some sort of a lizard, reptilian theory is what they call it. They try to turn you into this horrible beast of a creature, right? That eats your young. No, I mean, a bad thing happened here. We're all sorry a bad thing happened. To Hank's point, the little carrier, what negotiation do they have? And especially the new venture. That I've said it in prior shows. The truck insurance marketplace in the aggregate has not made money since 2010. If you look at the premium collected and the losses paid, they have not made money since 2010. How many of you are going to keep running your trucks if your cost per mile is $1.65 and you're making $1.53?
And it's just a coincidence that in 2010, CSA 2010 came in. That's really where the Southern term is. That's where the lick log is in this whole issue. It's particularly ironic that Werner bought a $40 or $80 million verdict because the truck was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and somebody conflated preventability with cause. Now, the Werner truck didn't cause the accident, and under traditional legal standards should have had no liability whatsoever. But plaintiffs' bar used this notion of preventability and said, Werner's got a whole big bunch of money. They must have contributed. And, if Transport Topics can't get it right, if they say that preventability is going to be a fault determination, what in the devil do you think plaintiff's bar is going to make out of?
I want to say, so then if you all, Rich and Hank, if you all will create that capsulated notice and request from carriers that have fallen victim or found themselves in this hole, we would be happy to share it and talk about it to help you get that message out and find more of those folks.
That'd be great.
I'll say this about Hank. He's very good about working with the small carrier community. I mean, he's a part of many different association groups. He's leading the charge on this. I was on the conference call last Thursday, you know, and again, you have to be aware of the next regulatory change that's coming down. And like he says, if they just embrace what they believe is the gospel as they've written it, you know, and they don't go through a rulemaking, we're gonna be stuck, for lack of a better term, right, Hank? We're gonna be stuck with this new.
Well, it took us 10 years and a lot of good companies in the dirt to unravel CSA 2010 before Congress took it down. And the agency hadn't given up on it, but we can prove, and they just ignore it. We can prove that the system misidentifies small carriers, because you have one accident with 5 trucks, and if it counts against you, you're 10 times over the national average, and it probably wasn't your fault. Much less indicative of, hey, maybe your driver was smoking a cigarette and put it out on his leg. Has nothing to do with the viability of the company.
And social media to the rescue. I just saw on Facebook today that a driver spilt coffee in his lap and it caused him to wreck his custom-built truck.
So now he can sue the party that sold him that coffee because the coffee was too hot, right? They didn't have the warning label on the cup of coffee. I mean, McDonald's has paid that claim too. So,
and Preventability don't sell coffee.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So they'll find something wrong with his truck. Forget the coffee. He's unsafe, right?
Plus what?
Improper seat design.
And what did he hit? I mean, what construction company put that stuff in?
That's awesome.
And that's the thing too. I'm almost embarrassed that not only did I introduced you, Hank, as a transportation lawyer, but you're an advocate.
Well, I guess that's what keeps the juices going. I've always had a heart for the little guy, and I think if you look at the national transportation policy that was written with deregulation, it says that they will enforce the regulations to encourage competition and equal access to markets, and that's the way they'll enforce the regulations. And unfortunately, they haven't paid any attention to that since the turn of the century.
Makes you feel like, and there you are, you're in D.C., because when you go to the statues of the Founding Fathers and you read everything on the walls, carved into the stone, you realize, well, what happened to that phrase? Don't you get that feeling, right? Standing there either in the Lincoln Memorial or Jefferson, and you realize, how did this phrase get left out of my reality?
You need to realize I've moved out of the swamp and lived in Tennessee for the past 8 years, and only go up there in small bites.
That's why you still have a smile on your face.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Thanks, man.
Wow. Yeah, we've kept you too long. Guys, thank you so very much for all of your time, input.
Well, this has been fun. Thanks much, guys.
It really has. So we'll be in touch soon.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you all
Thanks,
so
Jerry.
much.
Good, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Wow. Amazing. I mean, unbelievable stuff. Let's go ahead and switch this back. You guys know, as I like to say, I am the switcher, right? And I gotta, let's get the PowerPoint off here. Go ahead and see if I can figure out how to stop that. Let's close that. Oh, there we go. I got my columns back. Oh my goodness. You guys, was that amazing? Is it me? No, it's not me. That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. And you know what's really, really neat is that, I mean, two powerhouses and their buddies, Hank Seaton and Richard Bryn. They're friends, and they are both, you know, they're in business. They're able to navigate and help clients and business owners. But on top of that, they're really nice guys, and they really do want the business owner to be successful, as long as the business owner follows the rules, learns what they need to learn about conducting a, you know, ethical and profitable business. And that's why it's such a pleasure to have them on the show. And Ty, of course, thank you so much for being on the show and joining us again tonight for that. I know that was really fun, really informative. And you know, I want to say this is that, again, if you don't have a copy of this book, Rules of the Road by Henry E. Seaton, Esquire, a practical guide to legal issues in truck transportation. I'm going to put up the link here. I highly suggest, I love that I have a copy of the book signed by Hank Seaton. But if you don't have a copy, go to transportationlaw.net. And when you go there, you can actually, there's links. As I showed earlier, you can get a you can get a template copy of a shipper carrier agreement, broker carrier agreement. Hank has a podcast that he does. You can learn more about his business, what he's got going on. And I really do want to find out more about how to get the word out to help in the advocacy that is a huge part of moving forward in business and helping our fellow transportation brothers and sisters. Seriously, right? Because this is a community, this is an ecosystem, and it's a really big deal. You know, I like to say that if you're shopping for a trailer, check out Sun Country Trailers. Shopping for auto carrier software, Gopher auto carrier software. If you are looking for a dispatcher, talk to Murphy Auto Dispatch Services. And if you are looking for a better load board for booking loads, go to acvauctions.com/ATI. That is the show this evening. That's episode 99. It's in the books. Listen, if you were unable, by the way, thank you, Moozy. Yes, and I want to say this too. Moozy was kind enough to send a super chat. Check out Truckify car hauling app on your Google and App Store. Truckify app helps car haulers manage their loads and drivers with car photo inspections, and a cool ePod BOL, electronic proof of delivery. Create free account on Truckify.com and work smart. Check that out. Thank you, Moozy, for reminding me. I definitely appreciate that. And Moozy's contact info is in the chat. We're going to be back next week. Episode 100, by the way. Episode 100 of Auto Transport Intel, the 100th Tuesday night in a row. And what we're going to do is, leading up to the fact that Ty and I are going to go to Automotive Logistics Global Detroit. We're going to be there September 10th through 12th. And we are now friends with Finished Vehicle Logistics. We are asking, if you're a car dealer and you're interested in checking the show out, let us know. Send me an email, autotransportintel@gmail.com. We want to talk about it, and we're going to go into that more next Tuesday night. We're going to dive in deep to Ty's Dealer Dynamics and Data for Detroit show. So hopefully you'll join us for that. Listen, you guys, thanks so much for sticking around. This is 2.5 hour show. Not nothing new under the sun, Jay. And you know, I'm your host. I'll be here every Tuesday night. Send me an email, autotransportintel@gmail.com. Please remember to like this video. Really helps in the YouTube rankings and Google rankings and overall channel authority. I really appreciate all the live chats. And if I missed your live chat, I'm sorry. Gerard, thanks for tuning in. It really means a lot. Gartha Logistics, thanks for your contributions. guys. And also, yeah, Tom, thank you, Tom, for tuning in. And just checking back. Slow Money, thank you for the participation. That was great. Candy at Seaport Service, always a friend of the show. Thank you so much, Candy, for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next week. Here comes the car hauler. Thank you so much. Happy Tuesday night. I'll see you next week. Be safe out there. Peace.